Start. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Optimize Your SAP Operations in Azure with a Complete Microsoft Cloud Platform Solution. I am Kristen Tanner, Global Marketing Strategist for Protera Technologies, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. We appreciate all of you taking time out of your very busy schedules to attend today's educational session. Protera is a leading global hosting and managed services certified SAP partner and Microsoft Gold Cloud Competency Partner with specialization in Azure Managed Services. With many Protera customers currently running SAP, SAP HANA, and S/4HANA on Azure, we hope you find value in today's session as we share how you can leverage the Azure platform to support your complete IT landscape, including your critical SAP systems. We will be starting the webinar shortly, but first a few housekeeping notes. Only our presenters' phones are live. Your microphones have been muted by default to block any background noise. Our presenters will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. If you have a question, please type it in at the Q&A function in the sidebar at that time. If we don't get to your questions during the presentation, I or another member of the Protera team will be sure to follow up with you directly. And lastly, the webinar will be recorded and a link will be made available to all attendees. Now, I would like to introduce today's presenter, Patrick Osterhaus, President and Chief Technology Officer for Protera Technologies. Without further intro, take it away, Patrick.
Great, thanks, Kristen, for that intro. And welcome everyone to our webinar here today. Our topic we're talking to is optimizing your SAP operations in Azure with a complete Microsoft Cloud Platform solution. So we're going to talk about a lot of new announcements that Microsoft has made around the Azure platform, and hopefully we can get some good information that you haven't heard about and how that applies to your SAP landscape. So the focus on that is our fourth section there, and that's where the vast majority of our material lies. To get there, I wanted to just lay the groundwork a little bit, introduce who we are at Protera, as well as talk about where we're at in the market right now and talk about some of these trends and demands and what makes the Azure Cloud Platform very pertinent and an important topic that we all need to know about. So a little bit, I'll make this brief about Protera. Our background, actually just last week, October 2nd, which was a week ago from yesterday, we celebrated our 20th anniversary. We started on October 2nd, 1998. So very happy to celebrate that with our many customers and our partners and our employees. So it was a really big, momentous day for us. I'm talking to you today from our headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. We have offices, as you can see in the lower left corner there, around the world. Obviously based in the United States. We have presence in offices in Latin America and EMEA in Europe, as well as in Asia. So we certainly can follow the sun, provide support 24/7 for all of our customers. And we'll talk a little bit about how we do that with our Protera AppCare platform just in a few moments. Since our inception, we've always been focused around delivering best-in-class services around the SAP solution stack. Our mission statement you can see right here in the middle is delivering personalized SAP focus on the SAP apps through hosting, cloud, and hybrid-based delivery models. And today, actually, we're going to talk a lot about the cloud and the hybrid model. So it's very, very pertinent for today's discussion about what we've learned and how this pertains to the Azure platform. We are talking about our experience levels with SAP. We've gone through many, many audits over the years with SAP. You can see our certifications here in 5 different categories. Also should notify that we are a global partner. What this means is that we are audited every 2 years in our offices around the world, just to make sure in all these 5 categories we are fulfilling SAP's expectations as a partner in these categories. And you can see some very important data marks here, data points on what is our success so far with migrations. You can see over 500. Amount of SAP HANA engagements continues to rise. And one thing that should note here, not in this slide, which will be added, is over the 20 years of managing thousands of projects, we've never had a failed project. So we're very, very proud to make sure that we make sure things come in on time, on budget, and successful. Today we're talking about Microsoft Azure, so it's very important for us to talk about a relationship with Microsoft. Since our inception in '98, we've been a Microsoft partner, and a couple years ago we got certified as a Gold Azure partner. So a lot of confidence, a lot of experience talking about the abilities in Azure and how that you can bring that to bear for your SAP environment. So that's the meat of today's conversation, what we're going to talk about, and shows we've been working on this platform for quite a while. A little more about ourselves and our key services. I'll show this next slide here just to break down our two main platforms. You can see here on deployment, we have the platform, the service called Protera FlexBridge. I'll briefly talk to this today. We have many other conversations and webinars that describe this more in detail, but we'll talk about the highlights for this because it's one method, a good way that you can move your compute and your SAP systems into Azure. So we'll talk just briefly on that today. And then also our Protera AppCare platform is our managed services that we provide on the Azure cloud. So we'll briefly describe that before we get into our main topics here. Talking about FlexBridge and the importance of migration, it's very important for us to talk about SAP's approach and what SAP thinks is the best way to guide a customer into going into the Azure cloud and going into any of these targets. It can be an as-is, we call it migration, which you're copying a system into Azure, or this is doing a migration into Azure with changing the database from a traditional database into HANA. Or it could also be an application migration where you're actually transforming the business processes and converting the data in that company's system into S4, into the latest and best application SAP has. So we follow the SAP guidance with SAP Activate, which you can see on the top. These are the 6 phases. We were going to have future webinars just on this approach and best practices here. But in brief here, just for a highlight of what SAP Activate is and how we follow it, you can see some very high-level deliverables of what each phase provides. There is an abbreviation here where it says MCU. That's migration, conversion, and upgrade. It's just takes a lot of space to type in those little boxes, so we abbreviated there. So just in a very high level, the discovery phase is where an as-is assessment is performed. So this looks at operating systems, databases, applications, networking, the physical hardware or virtual machines that are currently running, taking a look at a survey at all the compute and the networking that makes up those systems. It looks at interfaces, any dependencies within applications, those are going to be considered. From that, then we have a good mapping of the as-is. It's a really good place that we talk to the customer around their roadmap. Is their roadmap to get in compliance for SAP's 2025 deadline to be on HANA and S4HANA, or is it they're looking to go into Azure as soon as possible? So from this guidance and the roadmap from the customer, we then can decide all these subsequent steps. Because right when we get into prepare, we have to really know what that to-be target's going to be. So that to-be target's going to be the goal for all the subsequent steps. So that prepare is going to have a detailed analysis of that migration, conversion, upgrade for whatever's required to get to the to-be state. The next 3 phases are really where the rubber hits the road. That's where all the activities occur. The explore, realize, and deploy, you could categorize these, and Microsoft, in fact, calls these all migrate. These all phases are where the work is done to perform that migration, conversion, and upgrade. And I think simply you can look at the explore phase, which is in green, and the deploy phase, those bookends, it's basically the pre-steps and the post-steps, whereas realize is where the activities happen. Just a side note for companies looking to go to S4HANA, the most complicated, the longest effort, as you can say, the longest hole in the tent is the explore phase, because that's actually where the business process, all the big questions around how you're going to adopt S4HANA, those all get decided and explore. So that's where the time really has to be spent and planned for when you're doing the project plan for S4HANA. For HANA or an as-is migration, it's a simpler approach, and explore could be just a couple days. Whereas if you're going to S4HANA, that explore phase could even be a couple months for the first one. And then lastly, once we get through the post steps, after doing the migration to deploy, we are going live, and that's what we're here to talk today about, is about all the great things that Azure platform provides and why you want to get to running your compute there. So in a few slides, I'll get to that point. What I wanted to also share is just from a very high level, again, this is not the purpose of today, yet we want to talk about giving some guidance and some information around FlexBridge of what it provides. And you can see here, I don't have to read these off, but the bullets basically are showing a very unique single pane of glass operating platform where you can go to one tool and it's going to guide you through this whole Activate process. As you can see on the left, there's the assessment report. That is going to be that first discover phase for SAP. We're going to go through what you need to know. And then the tool guides you through all the subsequent steps where you can see the repair phase shown here on the right graphic. So again, happy to show that. You can do a demo, you can talk to your use case specifically. If you want to, just reach out to us. Very high level, finishing on FlexBridges, the savings on cost, time, and reduction of risk and complexity, and the increase in productivity for these conversions, upgrades, and migrations, as well as increasing the visibility through your whole organization of those projects. And just some very high-level statistics of those cost savings and reduction of risk is shown here for the projects that we've done so far. Just got 2 more slides to talk about Protera. This slide is going to highlight our AppCare platform. As you can see, the big idea here is that we have one platform that is going to provide services not only for SAP, but any other subsequent or collaborative software that integrates to SAP. So you can see here Office 365 highlighted, which is obviously a very important piece, integral piece of the Azure platform, as well as any of the other enterprise applications. If you were at SAP Tech last week, the very first partner that was introduced at SAP Tech on the keynote was Vertex. They have a new app, a cloud platform product that is very exciting. We're using this for our customers. So any integration, any management that's done required, Critera can fully do that. So within the AppCare service catalog, we provide an end-to-end SLA that covers performance guarantees, covers for performance of service tickets that are in our AppCare service centers around the world. And it wraps all these services in the protection of a guarantee of services for all these applications for the full stack. So this is going to be not only, and I'll flip here in the next slide, you can see the breakdown of those services. So you can see that not only for the technical AMS in the middle, where you can see all the categories, but also for the infrastructure. So we can fully manage not only the SAP stack, but also the infrastructure stack within Azure. And we provide that with all the bullets here. You see the SLAs, the guaranteed availability for a monthly service fee. So let's get into our topics for today for this webinar. Some new data that just came out about opportunities of, for going into Azure and the companies that are looking to go to cloud. So we can see this highlighted statistic on the top, 140,000 SAP customers worldwide. And you can see the prediction that half, in just 3 years from now, less than 3 years, half of those accounts will be on HANA or S/4HANA. So they're bracing up for this 2025 deadline. So half of those customers will have moved that time. We're looking at the statistics I heard last week was 15,000 deployments now of S/4HANA, which is significantly more than even the beginning of this year. I think at the beginning of this year, there was around 5,000. So S/4HANA adoption is rapidly climbing, as well as moving to Azure for that compute. So you can see the statistics that a lot of not only SMBs it's highlighted, but large enterprises are moving to HANA and S/4HANA and have this in the roadmap. So why is that? We talk about this roadmap as a key driver for HANA and S/4HANA. The key part on the second piece is this cloud adoption. Why do companies want to go to Azure? And that's really the genesis of what we're going to talk about here in the next few slides. So we'll talk about all of the advantages, not just the reduction of IT costs and the complexity. There's many more for Azure, but where are those drivers? And why do companies want to run in Azure today? So we'll get to those right next. I wanted to just bridge before we jump to that topic, just some nomenclature and differences that we have for Microsoft. When they talk about migrations, they talk about 3 categories. They talk about assess, migrate, and optimize. And I say this because as you see the Azure stack and some of these new products from Azure, you're going to see these terms come up. And I just wanted to connect the dots here between the SAP world and the Azure world and how those connect. So as I mentioned before about SAP Activate and moving compute into the cloud, the top portion is Microsoft's view of the world, where they have 3 categories: assess, migrate, and optimize. And you can see in the bottom how SAP breaks these components up over the 6 phases of Activate. You can see the first 2 relate to assess, the next 3 are migrate, and then the last is optimize or go from SAP's world. So you'll see this reference with the products that we're going to go into next in the Azure Cloud Platform and how this can apply and improve your SAP operations. So one of the first things that we saw as a value for companies that have on-premise systems and they're looking to move to cloud is this instant feature of integrating their Active Directory across their on-premise system into a hybrid environment and ultimately all the compute that runs in Azure. So you magically have this great technology that provides security and all the credential and management of those pieces that now you can extend to cloud and you can turn on for any new cloud service from Azure. So some of the key technologies that are shown here on the top that enable that. So obviously Azure is a piece of this, the virtual network, which can be a VPN or it can be ExpressRoute, which is a dedicated connection with an SLA. Once we have that, we can now integrate all those on-premise solutions with the cloud solution. So many of you are already running Office 365. That's fully integrated with Active Directory, as well as now you can bring these new features like Power BI, which has been provided within the cloud, and oftentimes it's provided within your Office 365 license. So now it's another analytical package you can provide for your SAP Power users. So a lot of capabilities there on data mining. I don't have a slide on that piece on the deck, but that's inherent in the Azure slide. Native in the Azure platform, which is getting a lot of adoption, for a lot of interest in our customers. So if you think of that slide previously about the drivers going to Azure, and we talked about cost and agility, this slide does a little better job of describing categorically why companies are looking at Azure. So it's not just cost savings, but it's this continuous improvement. And it's I like the saying about the rising tide raises all boats. And the idea of extending that idea into Azure, where once you have your compute there, every new innovation is immediately available to any compute running there. So now you have any machine learning that has now been applied to Azure. You can now apply that to the data that's running in any of the databases that you have within SAP or within data marts within Azure. So we can extend this power of the data that's been resident for many years, and many of these systems is 20-year-old data in SAP, and now we can bring these new tools and analyze it and have immediate learnings that we can run our businesses better from this. So that continuous innovation, I think, is actually the thing I'm most excited about with the Azure Cloud Platform. Every new announcement, many were made last 2 weeks ago at Ignite, is going to be immediately applicable and available when you're in Azure. And then so many parts about the second piece, agility and flexibility. So I like to call non-prod systems the possibility that you can apply part timing. So meaning we can take those systems down from 7 at night until 7 in the morning and keep them down during the weekend. And then also have the capability where you can apply schedules to it. So not only you can have different times if there's peak periods where you have extra development and you need those non-production systems up, you can easily change those. So very agile, as well as being able to make system copies very, very quickly. So number 2 is very, very powerful for the operations and that aspect of running SAP systems in Azure. Number 3 talks about integration, which we just talked about. And there's a few slides, big category around Azure Stack and hybrid. This integration that basically on-premise systems can be fully integrated into the cloud, and your users will not have any effect of negative consequences. That it's fully integrated and it's going to be high performing, be it on-premise or in Azure Cloud. The integration is inherent in there. Security and compliance. There's decks on that. If you Google the many certifications, most recently a lot of new content around GDPR, around security and compliance. It's the best place that you can run a highly secure application and those requirements is for many of those reasons, Azure is the right place. And then, as we already mentioned, cost. For all these factors, cost is significantly less expensive than running on-premise and other cloud platforms. So now getting into the meat of discussion here around the cloud platform. One thing I wanted to make everyone aware about is that Microsoft's done a really nice job of giving reference architectures on their website. So just to make you aware that these are available, they have them for 3 different product suites or categories, I'll call it. I'm only showing here the S4 HANA, for example, but they also have it for NetWeaver. So for traditional databases, non-HANA, I should say, those NetWeaver stack applications, they have reference architectures for those. They also have them for dedicated hardware for HANA systems, very large systems. There's reference architecture. But what I wanted to focus on in this slide is around just it gives a very good high-level overview of the capabilities of what's possible within Azure. So very quickly, we can bring up another site and have Azure Site Recovery. If you're not familiar with that term, that's ASR. You'll see that on the Microsoft site, talking about Azure and all the capabilities. What this provides is a built-in the platform replication capabilities for the compute and storage. And I'll show you a very new product that just got released, or just got GA'd, I should say. It's been in beta for a few months. That provides a very exciting new feature within ASR. So you can see a lot of options on recovery. Most excitingly is that this doesn't have to be in Azure for you to use ASR. You can actually do on-premise and replicate through a VPN at minimum to Azure and have that ASR site recovery active. So imagine for all your landscape here shown, we have SAP systems, actually, absolutely have the back-end database servers. We have the web front end, and you also have, not really shown here, but you have your file servers and all these other ancillary services that you can fully recover, keep as a smaller size system as a target, and then you can replicate that over, test it to make sure you can do a DR test at any time, and then keep that replication active so you can do a failover when need be. So good place. Want to make everyone aware that reference architecture, if you just Google that, you'll find the page. Many references, and they already did the very nice job of putting it in a Visio for you. So the Azure hybrid, and I believe this is one of the great features of Azure, is the tight integration between on-premise and going into cloud. And they've made this very easy, they being Microsoft and the smart engineers there, of how to migrate to cloud. Many ways capable. FlexBridge has very good solutions around taking that very complicated journey to S4, yet there's many options of how you can do it for as is. And as is includes, one way you can do it is through the Azure stack, which I'm going to talk to next. One thing I want to make aware, though, of the Azure hybrid benefits is not only the technical and the ease of moving compute there, but also there is cost benefits. Azure has promotions of how you can capture the license savings for what you have on premise when you transfer that to Azure. So they have a lot of slides around this, not only for Windows Server, but also for SQL Server, to cover and save money on the new licensing within Azure. So I want to make everyone aware that that is capable and is possible for the compute that you're running for SAP and moving that from Windows servers into Azure. So the big idea on Azure Stack, if you're not familiar with that, is that it is an integrated product that extends the cloud benefits of Azure Cloud and brings it to on-premise. So you can see them within one dashboard, not only your cloud assets, but on-premise. And Microsoft has some very cool products that are built into hardware. You can see many vendors sell the software. Many different hardware vendors actually have this. So if you have a preferred vendor on-premise today, you buy their Azure Stack compatible hardware, and that has integration built into it. So you can start very easily where you can start to move these applications on-premise into the Azure Stack appliance. And then that is going to be used you can manage it from the single pane of glass, and it can simplify this migration to get into Azure. So it's a very exciting product. It's compatible not only with Windows operating system, you can see here with Linux also. So it covers the gamut of many SAP deployments that you can do today. So very exciting way that you can, from no knowledge of Azure and how to manage it, to take a compute, keep it on premise, manage it within the Azure stack, within the Azure platform, and then ultimately move it into the Azure cloud. So very, very exciting. The other category I wanted to mention, and this is the new GA announcement that came up very, very recently, a few weeks ago, is around managed disks. So extending this idea around Azure Site Recovery, this idea of fully protecting your SAP environment and doing it down on a shared disk level. So this is very new, very unique in the market. So you can have a shared, you can think of all those drives within databases and within the application level within SAP, and these can be shared and replicated within the Azure cloud. So this is available now. Include a screen of how that gets configured. They have availability sets where you protect that set, and then it will do the replication. You can set the settings on how often it's replicated and what kind of connection it utilizes. So very exciting, very new announcement. Encourage everyone that is interested in DR, and I think all of us are, as well as HA, this is a very important piece to look at. Another new announcement too is around the Azure Advisor. So I know we all do our best practices to run SAP Solution Manager and do our very best on monitoring. Solution Manager is an excellent product for not only for SAP monitoring database and the application, but we see a lot of different products that extend then to the operating system in the cloud. So Azure has done a very nice job where it can provide those insights in a dashboard for all of the Azure components, those services, and even extending it into the application. So Azure is extending this, there's extending the features of what it sees within SAP, but for now you can at least see application up and down. All the areas you see here on the right are fully monitored, and you can integrate this with your solution manager system as well as your ticket system that you have. So very nice feature. There's some advanced analytics that you can pull from Azure Log. This is compatible to many of the third-party products in the industry, which can oftentimes replace the need for those products. So this can tie into, for example, a SIM that you use for security analysis. And looking at that, you can now integrate those products and possibly lessen the licensing requirements for those and put it into the Azure cloud and use the log analytics service there to save some money and get a more integrated solution over all your products. So those are some of the new announcements that came up, and I know I'm getting close here. I want to keep it to 30 minutes, and we want to keep time for Q&A. So I'll switch here now to the last part here on the customer references, and I'll talk from a very high level the value that's been captured by some of our customers that have already moved to Azure. So for the very first one here, ChromoFlow Technologies, it's a longstanding hosting customer of Protera. We have moved their production DR system into Azure. So this is integrating the capabilities of replicating not only the database, but also the application of SAP and all the logs in the file system. One of the things that we're now putting into practice is where you saw the replication of the file system. So that's something new that we're prototyping here with that new announcement from Microsoft. So very successful implementation of getting DR set up, and this is a continuous test that they do every quarter. So very easy to perform on DR in Azure. And then BioSteel, this is a carve-out that happened very recently. They have gone, this is actually the previous company the carve-out from was on another database, not SQL. But we did the carve-out, and then we migrated that new SAP license with Windows SQL Server into Azure. And the outage for that was about 8 hours for that 2 terabyte system to get carved out and then migrated over the public cloud, over a VPN connection actually. So it was a very, very successful migration that happened with a very small outage. And then also I'll mention Tate and Lyle, which actually Tate has its own slide here. There's been so much done that on that implementation. This is a full life landscape that was running on-premise, that was migrated while Prod was being built. So dev and quality were already up. Prod was being built, so we migrated that whole landscape over in just a couple hours, and that whole landscape now is running within Azure. So very successful story of getting a full landscape moved over very, very quickly, and now all their new products, all their new applications from SAP are getting provisioned in Azure. So it's a very good start for them. So Ms. Kristen, I'll turn it back to you. I know I got 3 questions that have come through already, and we'll see if there's any new in the Q&A section. So
absolutely.
Feel free to submit it's a good time to do it. There's a Q&A function within the Zoom application. So I'll take the first one that's come in, and
perfect.
Any new ones we'll add.
Sounds great. Thanks, Patrick.
So the first question is around how can someone purchase the Azure Stack? They didn't see it on the Microsoft website. So the Azure Stack is actually, the service is provided by Microsoft. So there's no cost to the Azure Stack dashboard. What you purchase is the actual app appliance. You'll see on Microsoft's website, there's many hardware vendors. So whoever you have your purchasing is through, they will have an Azure Stack appliance that you would buy. You would then turn up that appliance, and it's smart enough to recognize your Azure subscription. And then you would subscribe, connect your subscription to that device, and you can fully manage it right from that single pane glass. So it's really cool technology. It's a really great way to start if you're on-premise today. And even if you haven't done any virtualization yet, it's a great place to start with bare metal and then dip your toe in the pool of getting into the cloud world and learning Azure. Next question was around the availability of the replication of the drives. Because I mentioned, I think person's getting a question on how soon is that available. So it's been in beta, the disk replication for, I believe since January it's been tested. We've been looking at it since about March, but it just got GA'd at Ignite. So it's available now. You'll see it within your subscription. If you go into the portal and display your services, you'll see that as a DR option now. And the last question was around the options around Azure Stack and the DR capabilities around that. So that really, the way that Azure treats the Azure Stack appliance is the same as if it's in cloud. So you can have this, you have the same replication options of protection and frequency. Obviously, if you're doing on-premise to public cloud, you got to make sure you have a very good network connection. So it's possible you can do a VPN connection, but we would highly recommend you would do a dedicated connection with ExpressRoute. So that'd be our recommendation there. So those are the questions I think that have come in so far. But feel free. Our next slide here will show how you can get hold of us at any time. And we have many events coming up. So if you keep an eye on our website with our social, a lot of webinars as well as in-person meetings with Microsoft.
Absolutely. We have one last webinar in this series, actually, that will be next Wednesday, same time, 1 p.m. Central. So please be sure to also join that webinar. And thanks, Patrick, so much for the great information you covered today.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.